Chris Brown, Steve Tasker here with you, and to Steve's left is the man who will be calling the shots on Thursday night, Friday night, and all day Saturday, Bills General Manager Brandon Beane. Thanks for joining us here, Brandon. We appreciate you stopping by. Always good to see you. The hay is in the barn, I guess, as they say, right?
Yeah, as close as it can be. You're always looking at it, and sometimes you got to just tell yourself to walk away. So I'm going to take the scouts to dinner tonight, which will be good, just to let everybody clear their head.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's interesting too because it's like this culmination, and like the agents are on pins and needles. The players are losing their minds,
Yeah.
you know, and the GMs, you guys are like, okay, here we go. And you just kind of watch for like stuff to happen, like, is somebody going to go off the rails, like, because of this? Because I was a kid like that once.
Yeah.
And what are we gonna do? I got, and you do something stupid, and some story comes out, and
Yeah.
it's like the night before Super Bowl when some guy goes, over the wall.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it's not just them. It's also, you got everybody in the whole business is crazy with anticipation at this point.
It's crazy what a draft. It's not even a game. What a draft. But it's the excitement of our sport. It's a lot of fun, and ultimately, it is. It's that fine line of getting away and just clearing your head, and I'm sure there's a lot of anticipation for players, for agents, for teams, a lot of unknowns, and again, I feel bad for players a lot of times because they get drummed up to that they're going to be a top 10 or a top 20 pick,
Sure.
and through social media or through agents or media that's not good information, and all of a sudden, you always feel bad they show the people on camera that are still sitting in the green room or at their home when they were supposed to be a first rounder, and now it's well into the second, and you always feel bad. There's a human element to this.
Yeah.
Right.
You have been very busy in the lead up to the draft, taking care of a lot of the other business with respect to your roster, free agency, the Ryan Bates thing. You locked that up and got that done. Another piece of business, though, that you took care of just today, from what we understand.
Yeah, so it's that time of picking up fifth-year options. So Ed Oliver, who we took in 2019, I don't think people were doubting it would happen, but we formally let his agent know this morning that we're picking that up, and so we'll now have Ed's rights, this year and next year, and hopefully longer.
Yeah, and also you get the chance to you can franchise him and take him. He's a Bill for a while at least.
Yeah.
Good for him. And really, how much did last year affect it? Because he was a progressive player. He came in, he was a little raw, and kind of finding his way. Got a little better and got a little better, and then last year, he's been a kid that's been a kid. I say, he's on the rise and has been on the rise since the day you drafted him.
Yeah.
And how much did last year affect your say? Okay, was it a deciding year, or were you pretty sure before going in, or what?
Yeah, I think it definitely it made the decision much easier. You always take these decisions seriously, but Ed, if you look at, he's made strides every year, and that's what you want to see when you're picking this up. And when he came out of college at Houston, he for 9 times out of 10 lined up dead over the center and was just, his job was to wreak havoc. Yeah. And so it's been learning an NFL game, learning the system, the 1-tech, the 3-tech. How to read blocks, how to work within a rush scheme and a rush plan, and sometimes you're going to have to take a guy out so that the end can loop under and he can hit the quarterback. It's just the being in sync as a group. Those are all things that Ed has really learned, and he had some sacks taken away from him last year on some penalty plays. He would have had more. So we think his best football is still ahead of him.
With respect to the draft, Brandon, the general consensus is there is no consensus, especially with, the top 10 there. And people say, well, there's really not true elites or whatever, however you want to describe it. I know this is the time of year when you and your people are doing the mock drafts. Mm-hmm. In what you've seen unfold in your draft room going through those mock drafts, has there been as much disparity from one mock to another as maybe people are saying there could be on Thursday night?
Yeah, I think there's some consensus of a certain number of players. I don't want to say that number, but
right.
That we think, these guys, no matter what, are going to be off the board. You can take these players in any mock, whether it's our mock, the media's mocks, and say you're not going to be talking about this young man. He's going. They might have the wrong team, but he's going before 25. And so, unless you're willing to move up to a much higher spot, these guys are out. And so then it's kind of subtracting 25 from what's left And that's what we've tried to give ourselves, different scenarios to, all right, what if you traded up, scenarios to what if you traded back, what would still be on the clock early in the second round. We did it without trades. We did it with trades. We've tried to come up with as many scenarios, almost every scout at one point of one pick, whether it was in the third round or the first round or mock 3, got a chance to put my shoes on and sit in my seat and then explain to the room. And some of them, it came up pretty easy, like, hey, this is clearly the guy that we would all take. But we had some others that, we had 4 or 5 guys here. Let's debate it through. All right, let's talk it through. Who would follows what the scout took? All right, who disagrees? And gives you a chance just to discuss some things that could happen on, Friday, Thursday, whatever day it is.
So essentially, you're just trying to reduce the pool in terms of what could still be there when your pick's getting close.
Yeah, trying to figure out trying to give yourself as, just like the coaches practice what they're going to get. They're getting the look team to give them what they're going to get. We're trying to give ourselves the best looks. Mm-hmm. What options are we going to face? What dilemma, if I'm on the clock, I've got this player on offense, this player on defense, and they both can help us. What's the best play for now, and what's the best play for long term, and talking it through.
I know you GM, you guys talk, you and other GMs talk to each other. You got friends, Joe Shane, and you've got other acquaintances, and plus now that you're 5 years into, you've interacted with almost every guy in the league, right, at some point. But you guys don't tell each other, all that much about what you're thinking. Mm-mm. And this is a draft pool of players that is a little different. There isn't 5 quarterbacks who are going to the, it's a mix. What does your gut tell you how this draft is going to be? About what may happen? Is there going to be is there going to be a lot of movement in the first round? Is there going to, is there going to be some surprises? Or what's your gut tell you about maybe how this draft's going to stand out amongst others?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, it may be as few quarterbacks that go in 1, and I think it'll be interesting to see, even by the time we pick at 2, how many have gone? Have 5 gone? Have 4 gone? But does 2 go in the first round? Does 3? One of the guys told me the Vegas odds had it at 2.5 or something.
Right.
I was like,
that's
okay,
Vegas.
Who's the half a quarterback that's gone?
Take the over under.
But yeah, I think that part of it, Steve, and just I think there will be trades. I just don't think you're going to see these big trades into the top 10. Where every year it seems like somebody's trying to get in there, generally to get a quarterback. I don't think you're going to see that this year. Yeah.
We heard a lot after last year's draft about how much deeper the pool was going to be this year because of the kids that went back with the extra year eligibility because of COVID and all of that. Is the talk of the deeper talent pool overblown, Brandon, or is there legit talent in like rounds 3 and 4 that could provide quality contributors sooner rather than later for NFL rosters?
Yeah, I think there's guys. I think this draft is deep. There will be a cutoff point of surefire, the guys making the roster, any of these 32 rosters. But I do think, the mid-rounds will have some depth in them. Okay. And, we'll see, again, how far that carries. But I do think it's probably lacks those top guys, as a total draft, but I do think it kind of makes up for it with the numbers, again, due to COVID.
Right, and when you get into this, you're talking about the depth of this draft, what is it that you find is going to be important for your room when you get in there and the communication's going and you got all these phone lines open to whoever? How far out do you start thinking, okay, we need to make some calls about either moving up or down? I know that everything's on the table with you in the first round probably, but even Sean alluded to it in his press stuff about, you get into that 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 pick, and that's when teams are starting to listen, if we're going to get the guy, we got to go. Because that's when you're kind of start to run out of first round talent the way everybody has them rated. So kind of everybody's thinking the same thing.
Yeah, you definitely, you kind of go in and say, all right, this is, no matter what, we're not trading any higher. If you're talking about going up, we're not trading any higher than this. It would just cost us too much. Right. And so you kind of know that. And as it approaches that line, if you feel it's getting thin and you want to see what it would cost, you do that. But while you're doing that, you're also preparing for when you get on the clock that let's pretend we're not excited, that we think we can get the value that we're going to take now. We think we can move down and get a similar value. So at the same time, someone's, or multitude of us are connecting with teams behind us and checking with them because ultimately, even if you're calling teams, they're going to not call you until they get on the clock to make sure they're not excited about a player, 9 times out of 10.
Is there? I don't want to tell you. I don't want I don't want to ask you to give up specific names, but it has in your mocks. Have there been maybe less than a handful of players that you've kind of gravitated towards? Like, no matter how the mocks you guys have run through, like 20 of them or whatever, is there only like 3 guys, or is there 2 guys that kind of keep coming up that you're going to have to decide between?
Not on all of them. I mean, and we did it in different ways. Where there was a couple times where just said, "Hey guys, let's try and avoid this area a little bit." But it came up different ways. The guys did a good job of not picking the same pick for the Jets or the Giants or some of these to mix it up. And again, we did some trades, but it worked out that we did get several different scenarios in one, and it definitely, the scenarios when we got later in the draft changed every time.
Yeah, right. With what we saw this offseason, crazy offseason, free agency period, trade period, whatever, we saw a definite move by a lot of clubs, mainly in the AFC, to add firepower, whether it's quarterback trades, Russell Wilson coming into the conference, or people paying a king's ransom for a wide receiver via trade, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, etc. Could you see that trend continuing in the draft on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, where maybe more teams are gravitating or putting a premium on players that can put points on the board, receiver, breakaway running back, whatever it is, because teams are coming quickly to the realization that if we don't have an all-world quarterback, we better get as many guys as we can that can score points, because I don't care how good our defense is, they're going to get 28 a game. I mean, the Bills are an example of that kind of a team. You got to keep up with those teams. Could you see a trend where a premium's placed on point scorers, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, I mean, I think the game's always evolving, and certain positions at various times, how the game's played or what the rules are. Obviously, the rules tend to favor offense.
Yeah.
You just look at pass interference alone, the advantage you get, and how often that's not called on the offensive player, but it is called on the defensive player. I do think it will be looked at, but at this point, I think people are going to say, all right, what can I add at the draft? But you know what? Maybe if I get through Friday, I've been through 3 rounds, and I'm like, all right, I don't think I'm going to get the player you're talking about on offense, whether it's a tight end, a running back, a receiver. But this option's still on the table with another club to get one that I think can help me now. Then maybe that still happens. You know what I mean?
So you're thinking maybe even more by trade?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's gonna be people. I mean, again, we talked about it. Receivers, due to 7-on-7s and all that stuff are deep. So I do think people are going to say there are receivers in this class that can help me, pretty fast once they get the knowledge of the playbook.
It's almost like the value of the receiver position has reached a level that I don't think many of us anticipated. Maybe you guys, with your trained eyes and all the studying that you do, kind of foresaw this coming down the pike with where the game's going. But not only the value in terms of dollars and cents, because the market, I mean, the roof got blown off the receiver market. Yeah. And then on top of that, after quarterback, I mean, receiver's kind of inching its way up. I mean, it's sitting right behind quarterback in terms of importance for football teams. Yeah. I mean, is there any other position that trumps it? I mean, everybody would always say quarterback, pass rusher.
Yeah.
You want those 2 things on your team. Receiver's not far behind now. It seems to be inching up the board even more.
It's closed the gap for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say it's past a pass rusher, but I definitely think, playmakers. Let's just call it that, playmakers, in which most of the times they end up being receivers. Those touchdown scorers, those guys that get the ball in the end zone, whatever that is, to help that quarterback, young quarterbacks, or like you said, maybe a guy who's not the top tier, but he's a really good player. Well, let's get him as many weapons as possible. And there's only so many number one receivers. You know what I mean? A true number one, you try and double them, you do whatever, they can still find a way to make plays. And I think those are what you're seeing people pay premiums
It's a
for.
position that's reached critical mass this year. It's crazy.
One of the reasons for that is because the game has evolved to a point where I said it yesterday. You're almost not allowed to play defense anymore. I mean, the way the game is officiated and legislated, and the rules changed and constantly fine-tuned for the offense. Do you sense at any point in the near future or distant future where the pendulum may start to swing back? And how do you stay in front of that? You know what I mean?
Well, I think you got to follow the trends of the rules, and is there a point where the league says, you know what, teams are? I don't think you want to see it where teams are scoring every single drive every week. You know what I mean? There are
Unless it's us against the Patriots.
there are games. I love that.
Should I not have said us? I mean,
Hey, I'm good with it.
Is that off?
I'm good with it if you are.
Did I cross a
As long
line
as he's
there?
okay with it.
You said it, I didn't. But I would say that as the game, I don't think the league wants it to where it's impossible to play defense. I
Right.
think if it got to that point where every game is 40s and 50s, it's fun to see that
The
here
team
and
who
there.
drops a pass loses.
Yeah,
Right?
when two quarterbacks go at it, you acknowledge, that was just two quarterbacks more than it was a defense. And I still think the game is not there, but I think if it ever got to a point, then maybe that's where you'd see some things, some of the rules to change.
Why do we see now, and I want to get back to the draft, about why do we see so much now that we've never seen in the past, or as much of in the past, as grabbing a player off another team and trading picks for him? We're seeing that more and more these days, where teams are going for a guy who's proven it at this level.
Players for picks instead of
they're
picks for picks.
instead of going picks for picks.
Yeah.
And drafted players, like two guys that haven't played in the league yet.
Yeah.
That you pick, plus another pick here and another pick from that team. Now we're seeing guys who have been proven traded for picks. And I get salaries, economics, some of it, but why do you think that trend is? What all went into that evolution? Because we're seeing it a little more commonly now.
Yeah, I think if you feel that there's a player out there, and for whatever reason the team that he's currently on is not going to be able to afford him, it's a regime change, not as clean of a fit. Maybe things haven't always worked out well there for whatever reason, financially, or you're seeing that, and so I think teams are more aware now so everything's out in public. 15, 20 years ago, how quickly did you know what's going on?
Debo Samuels wanted to be traded.
Yeah,
Right.
things like that. And now a lot of these things are out in the open, and so again, that's part of how we knew that Steph was available. Through social media and just checking, because we had checked before and they were like, no, but something was put out there and we checked into it. So sometimes you didn't know to check if there was a situation. Right. I think that kind of triggers things, and just the evolution of social media and nothing's sacred anymore.
I realize you're doing your prep at this point in time in terms of reaching out to other clubs. It's just part of the normal preparation in case you get in a situation where you want to move out of where you're sitting. And, you call teams behind you, you call teams in front of you, say, hey, what are you looking at? And they're probably calling you too. How would you characterize the level of dialogue, though? Because your spot is, we hear all the time, usually most teams only have about 18 to 22 players with first-round grades, give or take a few, every year. So you're sitting where you are. That could be a popular area where people are either looking to get out or get in if somebody slides for them. So how would you characterize the level of dialogue? Has it been heavy the last few days, moderate, or has it been pretty quiet?
Yeah, I mean, it's not been heavy, but it'll pick up as we go. But there's definitely been some calls, whether it's to me directly or one of the other guys. Hey, just letting you know, just talked to Team X, and they said they're open to moving back to our spot, or vice versa. They, depending on who's there, they might want to come up to 25. That's really what will go on, and over the next couple of days leading up to it. And again, if you had, using your number, if you said you have, we're picking at 25, and any team picking at 25, and you got 18 first-round grades, the odds are you're going to get one if you've got that many, because not everybody's board's the same.
Same, right.
And so it's really kind of, you can do historically a percentage. We have a good feel for how many picks we need in the second round to say we're going to get a guy at 57 that's in the second round value. So I think that's a little bit of a misnomer. People say, well, they said they only had 18.
Right, but it's not the same 18 as that team or that team or that team.
No,
Right.
No, and definitely when quarterbacks always get pumped up, you know, they may not truly have first round grades, but people are like, man, I got to get one. I want to take a shot on this guy, even though we had we had him high second. He won't be there when we pick again. I'll trade it. This quarterbacks you almost have to treat like a
separate
entity.
Yeah.
How much different is, if any, is your philosophy in 2022 than it was in 2018, when you got a different roster, and this year in 2022 you got, of the 6 or 8, 7 guys you're going to draft, 2 of them might have a chance of making the 53. You know what I mean? To make the 53, because it's such a deep roster. It's such a quality roster as you put together. Is it a different philosophy, or you just say, listen, we got to pick the best guy, and if they make it, they make it. If they don't, it's practice squad or whatever. How does that change anything, if it does at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have more spots than 2. To your point, we do. I feel there's some areas that we still need to add depth. And listen, maybe it's depth to push either that person over the top or push the guy we have here a little bit higher. You know, we all know competition brings out the best, and so I'm not going to sit here and say every player that we draft is definitely going to make it, but they protect us for injury. Okay, because we can't predict if you're going to have a run of injuries at a certain position. And so you don't want to just act like you're drafting today going, well, nobody on this side of the ball is going to get hurt. We have to prepare for that. We see it every year. So depth is good for competition and also for injury. And then, again, I think we do have some spots that, not necessarily frontline starters, but that can come in and help us and maybe be a tick better than what we currently have.
Talking with Bills General Manager Brandon Beane just a couple days before the draft, and Brandon, I know in a perfect world, 7 quarterbacks come off the board in front of you, because that's pushing everybody else down, because you guys aren't in the market for a quarterback.
Yeah.
Is there any other scenario that you could foresee that would help push more of that talent that you're interested in down the board, whether it's the fact that we've got over half a dozen teams that don't even have a first-round pick? Maybe they want to get in, and maybe they're taking something that you've got no interest in. Yeah. Like, is there any other thing that can help you besides quarterbacks going in front of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think listen, we build the board for the Buffalo Bills. You go to another club, they're going to build it for them. Not everyone builds it the same. Some teams run 3-4. We run 4-3. They may value an outside backer that's just a rusher and not going to play the run more than we do. They may look for a 2-gap D tackle, that we're looking for a penetrating guy with rush traits. So there are different things of how we build our teams. Somebody wants more of a true Y tight end blocking. Maybe we're looking for more of a pass catch. So different things like that. Character comes into play. Maybe there's some things a guy has that some teams are like, we'll be fine, we'll get him here, that maybe they take them that we don't have on our board. Medical. Maybe there's some things that our people have some concerns with from a longevity standpoint that somebody says, you know what, I'll roll the dice. You don't always see that in the first round, but it does happen.
Yeah. So we need as many 3-4 teams in front of us as possible.
Right, exactly. Let me ask you this. This is the age-old question. We probably ask you this every year you come on. You got 2, a balance. And if you got to take this one or this one, who do you take? The scheme fit, the guy that has the skill set that fits the way you call defense or offense or whatever, or do you take the elite trait guy, the guy that's big, strong, fast, got all of that stuff going on, and you're just going to teach him how to run your, which one do you like the most? And I know that there's a huge gray area between those 2 extremes.
Yeah, there is. Sometimes it can be the position, like how much time do you think? Do you have people in front of them? Like if you're counting on a guy that has traits but still is a long way away just from time on task, new system, like if you're needing him to play now, you may be setting him up for failure. But if you're putting him in a room that's got some good depth, now you can say we can be a little more patient with this player. So that definitely comes into question. Like you don't want to set them up for failure. And if you're worried that they may have to play too fast, you better go with maybe slightly lesser, ceiling, okay, but a higher floor. he's not gonna fall off and embarrass himself.
Right.
The last one I got for you, Brandon, is because we get a lot of questions about this. We saw Trey coming out of the weight room earlier today. How's he doing? Is there any update on his progress, or just still on schedule kind of deal?
Yeah, still on schedule. I mean, he's doing everything. It's still, it's so hard because he did this at Thanksgiving, and these take time. And again, you want to you don't want to push it. You want to he's going to push it himself. He's such a competitive young man, as we all know, and he's going to get out there as quick as he can. But it's hard to put like he's going to be out there August the whatever. It's still too early.
Yeah.
There's too many tests that, in my experience, you're jumping the gun here, several months out to say he's going to make it on this date.
Right. Yeah, I know Nate and his crew kind of err on the side of caution because you're not playing a game now. Like, what do you?
Yeah.
No need to rush.
Yeah.
All right, last one for me. It's our Twitter question of the day.
Uh-oh.
Here, we're asking our fans to call in and give us this. The Bills will have a successful draft if.
Oh man, that's a good one.
I know, we thought it was pretty
If
good.
Brandon Beane,
I came up with it.
If
as well.
Brandon
He did.
Beane doesn't screw it up,
Yeah, there we go.
and he trusts his board,
You are clever.
and
Yeah, that's very nice.
You are clever.
Very nice.
Man.
Yeah, it's going to be great. You'll probably be picking somewhere between 11 and 11:45 p.m. on
Really?
Thursday night, right? I mean, 25th overall, and that's what it usually is.
So I was on the radio this
Yeah.
morning, and they said they calculated at 11:15.
11:15,
Yeah.
11:20
So I told them I was going to try and beat the 11:30 news or whatever time.
Yeah, right.
Sports is usually
Sports,
last.
exactly.
Whatever it is, I don't even.
Yeah.
I don't stay up that late, but
Yeah.
so-called 11.
Well, you will be
11:30.
Thursday night and
Well,
Friday
you can
night
do
as
that.
well.
If you trade up, you'll beat it.
I could. Is that what you want me to do? So
No,
you get
no,
the
no.
bet?
It depends on the guy. Depends
Last-
on how my night's going. Call me, and I'll let you know. Say, you know what, I want to go to bed, so why don't you go ahead and trade up? And then
Okay. If you're getting tired, give me a text or something.
if I'm 2 whiskeys in and a couple cigars, let's go, Brandon.
He's sitting at home. We're all working.
I'm the only guy that got the night off.
Last thing, I need the over/under on how many prank calls you're going to get from Joe Shane over the course of the 3 days.
I don't know. I got to. We'll definitely talk a lot.
You got to have somebody
yeah.
fielding those calls, right?
Oh no, he's calling my cell. He's calling me directly.
Hand the phone to somebody else.
Yeah, I may have Terry Pagula answer it.
Ooh, that would be.
Have them do their impression of you, and then just go right back at them. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate the time.
Brandon,
so
good stuff.
so
Good
close
luck.
to the draft. Good luck this week. We
Yeah,
hope
we're
you
all
hit them all out of the
we're all
park.
in it with you, man. We can't wait to see it. It's going to be fun.
Appreciate it. We're excited.
All right, that's Bills GM Brandon Beane joining us here on One Bills Live.